Hi and welcome to this episode of The Talking Titans. Today I want to talk to you about the importance of when and how you answer questions from your audience. Having a viewpoint on this and having a strategy in place and proactively managing this aspect of your speech or your presentation is critical and very important to your speaking success. So the first point that I want to talk to you about is that audience interaction is critical for a successful delivery of your speech. And if you interact and engage with your audience through answering questions effectively and competently, then that will increase the chances of the audience remembering your content and your message. And when they get back home or they get back to the office or back to their business, then there's a higher chance that they will instigate change. They will take action on some of the key messages that you have spoken about. And throughout your speech, and whenever you're delivering your presentation, it's always a two-way interaction with your audience. Just because you're speaking one way doesn't mean the audience isn't communicating back. They communicate back with their energy levels, their level of engagement, whether they're actually looking at you and engaging with you and tracking you across the stage, whether they're raising hands, asking for questions. So audience engagement is critical, and actually fielding questions in a confident and competent manner is a great way to up that level of engagement from your audience. And this contributes to your success and your delivery of your speech and for you as a speaker. The second point I want to make is decide on your approach and your strategy to answering questions. There are a couple of ways that you can field questions during your speech. You can either take the questions as you go along, as you're delivering your speech, and you can answer each question as it arises through the duration of your speech. Or you can decide to manage all of the questions at the end, once you've delivered your content and you've delivered your speech. So one of the action steps I want you to take away from watching this video is really think about and reflect on what approach works for you. Now, if you're at the beginning of your speaking journey, it may be that you're thinking, I'm not really sure. I haven't tried either one of these approaches. Or it may be that you're quite experienced and you have a preference for the type of approach you want to adopt for answering questions. If you're at the beginning of your speaking journey, I would suggest you hold answering questions off until the end of your speech. That way, you can get through the whole of your speech in line with the timings that you've practiced, and you can give an excellent delivery to your audience. Then at the end, when you're recovering and you breathe a sigh of relief, you can then face fully and really enjoy fielding the questions and answering the questions. One of the risks of taking questions as you speak is that you run out of time and you don't manage your time. And we'll talk a bit about that in a while. So really think about your approach. And actually, one way to test this out may be to test it out in your next couple of speaking projects. Focus on using one approach and then focus on using the other approach. And maybe test it in a safe environment, at a team meeting, at your local community meetup, at home with friends and family, and just see what approach works for you, or where your style as a speaker sits naturally. So let's say you've made the decision that you're going to answer questions as you go along whilst you're delivering your speech. And that's absolutely fine. But the one top tip I would give you if you're going to take this approach is actually manage your time. Be very focused when you're fielding questions, how much time has gone by. It's very easy to get caught up in a very exciting question. You've got the knowledge, so you're responding in a professional way, and you're really vibing off yourself and the audience member, and it's a wonderful interaction. And then somebody else has got involved and somebody else has asked a question. Before you know it, you've lost 10 minutes of your runtime for your speech. So if you're going to field questions whilst you speak, then be very conscious of the time. And sometimes what you may have to do is adjust the remainder of the speaking time that you've got and think about what key messages can you land in that reduced time. And sometimes it is the right call to take a question, respond to that question in the heat of the moment. That may be the best outcome for that audience member and your contribution as a speaker to that one-on-one interaction. So be very conscious of the time. If you've got one or two colleagues helping you while you're delivering your speech, have one of them be the timekeeper so they can give you a nudge to say, we've got 10 minutes left, let's move on. Or actually commit just to taking one question per segment of your speech, and that's good enough. That gives the audience interaction as you speak, but it also helps you manage your time. Another way that you can take control and be proactive with how you manage the audience asking you questions is tell them up front, manage their expectations. So before you start your speech, as you're about to start, let the audience know that you will be taking questions at the end of your speech or your presentation. And the reason that you're doing that, whether it's a tight timeline that you've got to present and speak to, or whether you want to spend a good chunk of time at the end fielding questions. Tell the audience up front, manage expectations. And it's also important that you do this, whether it's a team meeting, an update that you're giving to your line reports, or whether it's people that you're updating at your local community meeting. Tell people up front how you want to manage questions. There's nothing worse than an audience member feeling not listened to or not heard or suppressed because they've raised their hand and you haven't focused on them and allowed them to speak. But if you tell people up front, this is the way I want to work the questions, they'll accept that and they'll reduce the stress within themselves and actually focus on listening to your message. Because it could be that they want to ask this burning question and they keep raising their hand and they're looking around for somebody to give them permission to ask that question. And it may be sometimes that you as a speaker say, no questions at the moment, but you haven't told them up front. You haven't managed their expectations. So tell your audience up front when you're going to field questions from them. So finally, you come to the end of your speech and your presentation. You're ready, you've prepped your audience, and you're now going to start to field questions. Really think about the time that you give to answering questions from your audience. This is probably the richest part of your delivery and your experience as a speaker. Two-way interaction and communication from your audience. When you answer questions, this is also where you sometimes pick up feedback on how you did as a speaker. And sometimes audience members will start off by saying, that was really great, brilliant speech, this is what I loved about it, and I want to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. Give it proper time and think about and negotiate with the organisers or whoever's planned your slot for your presentation or your speech, having a good 10-15 minutes to field questions. And sometimes it may be more appropriate to reduce your speaking time but have a bit more time for questions, because that's where you get the richness. Answer as many questions as you can, but don't try and squeeze in so many questions that you can't do justice to each individual question that the audience member asks you. And as you come to the end of answering your questions at the segment, let people know. Let people know where they can come and meet you for a coffee if you're still going to be around at that conference event a bit later, or if you're going to be hanging around and you'll be there for lunch, let them know. Let them know how they can reach out and connect with you. Let them know if they can drop you an email, if they can drop you a text message, whatever it may be. And encourage people to maintain the conversation with you after your speech, after giving your presentation, because that's a great way to build interactivity, to develop your community, and really connect with your audience. I really want to offer you some help and guidance, and I've developed a speaking success primer. which is a free download. It's a single page PDF document that contains 10 tips to improve your public speaking skills right now. Click on the first link in the description below in this video to download the Speaking Success Primer for absolutely free. And that will hopefully have an immediate impact on your skills and your thinking and your approach for your next speaking project. If you've really enjoyed this video, please do subscribe and let me know in the comments section what you've enjoyed about the video and what topics you would like to see more of around speaking, engagement, presenting and interacting with people. If you would like to continue this journey with me further, then I've actually published an online speaking course, which is the basics of speaking. It covers 9 key topics, all about designing a great experience for your audience members, but also for upskilling yourself as a speaker. 3.5 hours of video content, 6 downloadable frameworks, 9 to 10 different worksheets that help you reflect on the learning and embed the learning. So please check out the second link in the description below if you'd like to learn more about the online course, The Basics of Speaking. I wanted to thank you for your time today. I'm really grateful that you've taken the time out to watch this video and looking forward to catching up with you on the next video. Thank you.